You may be surrounded by people now and still feel the deepest loneliness you have ever felt. At the family lunch table, in the group of friends you have been part of for years, within the marriage that still exists on paper, inside the house that is still full of noise. This specific loneliness, the one no one sees because you seem to be fine, is the heaviest of all. Because it has no witness. You cannot explain it to anyone, because from the outside, everything is right, and inside there is an emptiness that finds no name. This video was made for that emptiness, for that interior silence that no one has heard yet, for the heart that is waiting for news that has not arrived for a long time. And what I'm going to reveal to you here is that the messenger of this news is already on the way, that the restoration your heart yearns for is not a distant promise, that the end of your loneliness has a date, and that the signs that it is arriving are already around you, waiting for you to learn how to read them. Stay until the end, because what follows may be the most important thing you hear today. I need to begin by recognizing something that few speak openly about regarding loneliness in adulthood, especially for those over 35 years old. The loneliness of youth has a simple explanation that everyone understands. You are young, you are still forming your circles, still finding your place. There is social permission for this loneliness. There is even a cultural romanticism surrounding it. But loneliness after 35 has a different flavor, more bitter, heavier, because in theory at this stage you should have already resolved this. You should already have the family, the friends, the community, the relationship. And if even having some or all of these things you still feel that emptiness, the internal judgment is brutal. What is wrong with me? Let me tell you what is wrong. Nothing. What you feel is not evidence of a defect of yours. It is evidence of a very deep human need that is being underserved. And this underservice is a crisis that is reaching proportions that public health has finally begun to recognize as an emergency. In 2023, the Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, published an official alert classifying loneliness as a critical-level public health epidemic, not social isolation caused by the pandemic, chronic loneliness as a health condition. And the data supporting this alert are alarming. Researcher Julianne Holt-Lundstad from Brigham Young University conducted one of the largest meta-analyses ever performed on the effects of loneliness on health. Analyzing data from more than 3 million people in 29 countries, she discovered that chronic loneliness increases the risk of premature death by 26%, more than smoking 15 cigarettes a day, more than obesity, more than a sedentary lifestyle. In Brazil, research conducted by the Datafolha Institute in 2022 revealed that 47% of adult Brazilians feel lonely frequently, and that this loneliness is greater, not lesser, among people who have families and who are in relationships. Because the most painful loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the absence of real connection with the people who are present. You are not alone in your loneliness. And that is one of the most paradoxical and truest statements I can make. There are 4 types of loneliness that need to be named. Because when you name what you feel, you stop treating it as a personal failure and begin to treat it as a reality that can be transformed. The first type is relational loneliness. It is the absence of close quality relationships. People who, due to various circumstances, moving cities, the end of a marriage, the death of friends, distancing from family, find themselves without a real inner circle. Without anyone to call for no specific reason. Without someone who asks how you truly are and waits to hear the real answer. The second type is existential loneliness. This is independent of how many people are around. It is the loneliness of those who feel that no one around understands what they are experiencing internally. The level of depth with which you think, with which you feel, with which you process life, finds no correspondence in the people available, and so you keep it inside. You go less deep in conversations. You learn to occupy a smaller space than what you really are, and this permanent containment exhausts you. The third type is spiritual loneliness. It is the longing for God, the feeling that heaven is in silence, that prayers ascend but arrive nowhere, that the faith which was once alive and pulsating is now dry and mechanical. This specific loneliness is one of the most devastating because it attacks the only source of anchoring that transcends circumstances. When the spiritual ground vanishes, everything becomes unstable. The fourth type is loneliness within the bond. This is the cruelest of all because it is the loneliest to name. It is the loneliness of one who is in a relationship, be it a marriage, a friendship, a family, and yet feels deeply unseen, unheard, uncomprehended. It is sharing a bed with someone and being alone. It is being in the same house with the one who should be your home, and feeling that the home does not exist. It is the loneliness you cannot explain to anyone, because those who listen think, "But you have a family, you have a partner. How can you feel alone?" This loneliness within the bond is what author and therapist John Gottman called emotional gridlock, when two beings are physically present but emotionally inaccessible to one another. And it silently corrodes for years until the person within it no longer knows who they are outside the performance of being well. But now I need to tell you something that will contradict everything modern culture has taught you about loneliness, because modernity has a single answer for loneliness: fill it. More social media, more entertainment, more commitments, more noise. Flee from silence at any cost. Never be alone with yourself. And this answer is exactly what deepens the problem, because the emptiness that loneliness reveals is not a defect that needs to be filled. It is a space that needs to be inhabited, not with distraction, with presence, with the willingness to sit with one's own silence without fleeing from it. The neuroscience of belonging, a research area led by Matthew Lieberman of UCLA, demonstrated that the human brain has a system dedicated to processing social relations that is as fundamental as the physical survival system. In other words, connection is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity on the same level as food, water, and air. But Lieberman also discovered something paradoxical. The quality of connection matters infinitely more than the quantity. A single relationship of deep authenticity has more positive neurological impact than dozens of superficial relationships. The brain is not satiated by presence. It is satiated by the encounter. And the real encounter begins with something that seems contradictory, with the willingness to be completely present for oneself first. Because you cannot offer to another what you do not have. You cannot create real connection when you are not connected with what happens inside you. Loneliness, as paradoxical as it may be, can be the invitation to this encounter with oneself. It can be the silence necessary to hear the voice that was trying to reach you for a long time and that you could never hear because of the noise. And it is in this silence that the messenger arrives. The messenger. This is the center of everything I want to transmit to you today. In all Brazilian spiritual tradition, in all the wisdom that crosses the different cultures that formed this people, there exists the concept of the messenger, the being sent with a specific word for a specific person at the exact moment they need it most. In the Bible, the messenger has one of the most urgent and precious roles in the entire sacred narrative. When Elijah was lying under a broom tree, completely exhausted, asking to die, so alone that not even the presence of God reached him anymore, what happened? Not a sermon, not a reproach. An angel arrived, touched him, and the first word of the messenger was not about the mission that still remained. It was about the body. Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you. The messenger arrived at Elijah's loneliest moment, not with difficult truths, with bread and water, with touch, with care, with the presence of someone who saw the exhausted man and did not demand that he perform strength before receiving care. When Hagar was cast out with her son into the desert, when the water ran out and she placed the child under a bush because she could not bear to see the boy die, the Bible says that God heard the cry of the lad, and he sent an angel. And the angel did not arrive with philosophy. He arrived with a question. What ails thee, Hagar? And he opened her eyes to a well of water that was there, which she had not seen because she was blinded by pain. The messenger does not bring the impossible out of nothing. He opens the eyes to what was already available, but which pain had made invisible. When the two disciples walked discouraged toward Emmaus after the crucifixion, convinced that everything had ended, that hope had died along with Jesus, a stranger approached and began to walk with them. They did not recognize who it was, but something in that encounter was different from all the other encounters of that day. And at the end of the path, when the stranger broke the bread, their eyes were opened, and they said one of the most beautiful phrases in all of Scripture, "Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way?" The messenger sometimes does not present himself as such. Sometimes he arrives as a stranger, sometimes as a circumstance, sometimes as a book that falls into your hands, as a video you did not plan to watch, as a conversation that happened by chance and stayed with you, as a person who appeared at a specific moment and said the exact word you needed. The messenger is already in motion toward you, and there are signs that he is arriving. 5 signs that the messenger of restoration is already near. The first sign is the intensification of loneliness before the turn. This seems counterintuitive, but it is a pattern documented in almost all stories of spiritual restoration. The darkness becomes denser moments before the dawn. Loneliness becomes more intense just before the encounter happens. If what you are feeling now is a loneliness that seems unbearable, this is not a sign that it will last forever. It is frequently the sign that the turn is near. The second sign is the spontaneous emergence of memories of genuine connection. When the messenger is arriving, many people report a specific phenomenon. Memories of moments of deep connection begin to emerge spontaneously. The memory of a conversation that transformed, of a relationship that was real, of a moment in which you felt completely seen and loved. These memories are not cruel. They are the heart showing that it knows what it wants, and what it knows how to want, it can find. The third sign is the unexpected opening of space in the schedule or routine. Suddenly, a commitment that was scheduled is cancelled. A period of time off appears. A window of silence opens where before there was constant movement. These spaces are not accidents, they are openings created so that the encounter can happen. The messenger needs a moment when you are not too busy to hear him. The fourth sign is the arrival of new people with different energy. When restoration is near, the field around a person begins to change. New people appear who do not fit the pattern of previous relationships, who have a different quality of presence, who ask questions that no one asked, who stay with what you say in a way that others did not. Pay attention to the new people who are arriving. The messenger may be among them. The fifth sign is this. You are watching this video now, not by coincidence, because what reaches our field of attention is rarely random. And if this content reached you today about exactly what you are feeling, it is because there is a greater intelligence that is trying to reach you. And this video may be one of the instruments of the messenger that you have not recognized as such yet. Let me tell you about Glaucia, 52 years old, from Manaus, a university professor, divorced for 8 years, 2 adult children who live in other cities, a successful career that demanded all her energy during the week, and weekends at home, alone, in a silent apartment she had decorated with care to look as if nothing was missing. She told me she had reached a point where she had stopped feeling. Not that she was sad, that she had stopped feeling. An emotional anesthesia that she described as walking inside a dense fog, physically present in everything, absent from herself in everything. On a Friday night, with no plans, she opened a video that a student had shared in a professor's group. It was about loneliness in middle age. She did not go intentionally. She was just scrolling the feed distractedly. But she heard the first sentence and stayed. She cried for 40 minutes, not because of the video itself, because of what the video unlocked, because of the words she finally heard that described what she felt and that she had never been able to name. And upon crying, she felt something she had forgotten existed. She felt. After months of anesthesia, she felt. The sadness was real, and it was an immense relief. The following Monday, she went to work and for the first time in a long time accepted the invitation of a younger colleague to have coffee. The colleague asked how she truly was and waited for the answer. And Glaucia, who had answered fine automatically for years, this time said, "I'm not well." And the conversation that opened lasted 3 hours. That younger colleague became one of the most important friendships Glaucia has today. The messenger arrived disguised as an invitation for coffee that she had refused several times before. She told me, "I kept waiting for restoration to arrive as a dramatic miracle, and it arrived in an invitation to have coffee that I finally accepted. Thus arrives the messenger, simple, human, at the moment you are open enough to receive." If this video is reaching you in a way you did not expect, go to the comments now and write, "Messenger," just that word. It is your signal that you are ready to receive what is being sent to you, that you are willing to open the door when he knocks. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, do it now and activate the bell, because the content that follows will continue this process of restoration that began here today. 4 keys to open the door to the messenger. The first key is the permission to be found. Many lonely people have developed, as a protection mechanism against further disappointments, an armor of self-sufficiency that has also become a barrier against the connection they seek. They want to be found, but they do not permit themselves to be seen. They want to receive, but they refuse what arrives. They want connection, but they keep everyone at a safe distance. The permission to be found is an internal decision. It is saying to oneself, "I allow help to arrive. I allow someone to see me. I allow a new connection to enter without me testing it to exhaustion before accepting it." This is not naivety. It is the willingness to open a crack in the place that was completely closed, not the whole door. A crack, enough for the light to enter. The second key is presence in community. Not just any community, a community that shares values with yours, that has a reason for existing beyond entertainment, a community of faith, of purpose, of practice, of growth. Holt Lundstad's research showed that belonging to a group with a shared identity, whether religious, cultural, of interest, or of purpose, is one of the strongest predictors of mental health and longevity ever documented, stronger than any pharmacological treatment for loneliness, because the human being was created for community. And when you isolate yourself from community for long enough, the brain's belonging system collapses. Do not wait to be ready to go. Do not wait for loneliness to pass before seeking community. Go as you are, with the pain as it is, with the armor as it is, because it is within the community that the armor begins to loosen, not before. The third key is the practice of reciprocity. One of the most powerful laws of human connection is the law of reciprocity. What you give in genuine presence tends to return in genuine connection. And one of the most effective antidotes for loneliness that science has documented is service. Not service as an escape from oneself, but service as an exit from oneself toward the other. When you are deeply alone, the natural tendency is to contract, to become smaller, to invest less in relations because it seems the return never comes. But it is exactly the opposite that works. Those who offer presence tend to receive presence. Those who offer listening tend to be listened to. Those who create space for the other tend to find space created for themselves. Do not wait to receive in order to give. Give first, and observe what begins to change in the field around you. The fourth key is the prayer of opening. Not a prayer asking for loneliness to pass, a prayer asking that eyes be opened to see the messenger who is already near, that ears be opened to hear the voice that is already speaking, that the heart hardened by isolation be softened enough to receive what is being sent. Like Hagar in the desert, you may be so blinded by pain that you do not see the well of water that is beside you. The prayer of opening does not ask for water to appear, it asks that eyes open to what is already there. 3 concrete practices for today. The first is intentional connection. Today, not tomorrow, you will contact a person with whom you lost the thread of connection. Do not wait for the perfect situation. Do not wait to have something important to say. A simple message. I was thinking of you. How are you? These 5 words have the power to reopen a channel that was closed, and what you set in motion today may be the first step of the encounter you were waiting for. The second practice is the diary of presence. For 7 days, every night before sleeping, you will record a moment of the day in which you felt present, seen, or connected. It can be a small moment, a genuine smile from a stranger, a conversation that was real for a few minutes, a message that arrived at the right time, a moment of silence in which you felt something greater than yourself. Recording these moments trains your perception system to notice the presence that already exists in your life and that loneliness makes invisible, and what you notice, you can cultivate. The third practice is the opening of a new space. Enroll in something. A class, a group, an activity, a community of faith, an in-person course, a volunteer opportunity, something that puts you in regular contact with new people around a shared purpose. Regularity is fundamental. Real connection is not born from an isolated encounter. It is born from repetition, from seeing the same person week after week until the stranger becomes familiar and the familiar becomes a bond. Do not wait to feel like it. The will comes after the movement, not before. Decide on the movement, the will follows. And now, before closing, I want to leave you with the most important word this entire video has to offer you. You have not been abandoned. I know it seems so. I know the silence around you sometimes seems like abandonment from all sides, human and divine. But abandonment is not what is happening. What is happening is what happened to Elijah under the broom tree, to Hagar in the desert, to the disciples on the road to Emmaus. What always happens in the moments of most intense loneliness with the chosen, the preparation for an encounter that will change everything. The messenger is in motion. The news that will restore your heart has already left the sender. The path between what you have been feeling and what is arriving may be shorter than it seems now. And sometimes the space between the request and the answer is exactly the space the heart needed to be ready to receive what was coming. Your loneliness is not punishment. It is not evidence that you do not deserve to be loved. It is not the permanent portrait of your life. It is a chapter, a specific chapter, with a beginning and an end. And the end is closer than you imagine. Share this video with someone you know is alone now, who is in one of those lonelinesses that has no witness, who is waiting for news that seems not to arrive. Because sometimes the messenger arrives by the hand of someone who cared enough to share. And perhaps you are today the messenger for someone. Until next time,